6:30 in Readfield, Maine. Please stand and salute the flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Welcome to the February 27th Select Board meeting here in Readfield. As a reminder to everyone on the Select Board tonight, please make sure you're speaking clearly into your microphone. It always helps for folks that watch these videos after the fact. We begin tonight with our regular board items, which are the selection and approval of minutes from February 21st, 2023. This is item 23084. I would entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
I would make a motion to accept the minutes as amended today and posted.
Second that.
It's been moved and second to approve the minutes of February 21st as amended today. Are there any further discussion? Is there any further discussion, I should say? Excellent. All in favor? Thank you very much. And thank you, as always, Angelica, for the minutes. Item 23085 are warrants 33 and 34. We go to Carol, I believe, who has reviewed 33 and 34 for us.
Yep, thank you. Warrant 33 is payroll, $20,742. And various vendors in the amount of $63,078.98. I reviewed this. There wasn't anything like really exciting. I'm just going to go through a couple of things. Dave Morrow had done some repair work. I think it was just regular maintenance. Demco was, I believe it was supplies. And salt as $14,444, which is normal. And there was a whole bunch of stuff from Staples. Let me get a total. That was pretty big, but it looked like a bunch of things maybe for the front office or the town hall, $1,198.22 for supplies. That where we pretty much do most of our shopping for office supplies is Staples. Probably send it right over. Okay. And we have an account with them. So that's, I guess, understandable. And that's all that I saw. That was of interest.
Excellent.
I would make a motion to approve warrants 33 and A and B and 34 in the amount of $83,821.80.
It's been moved and seconded to approve warrants 33 and 34 in the amount of $83,821.80. Further discussion? Yes, Eric.
I wanted to check on that Staples order.
Yep.
I wanted to confirm what that was. We did have some materials for our comprehensive planning meetings, also for general use, but most importantly, Angelica now has a new functional laptop, so she doesn't have to write everything down and then type it again. We're working on efficiency.
Oh, no
So yeah.
kidding.
Wow, that's a major upgrade.
Yay.
Yeah, it's bare bones. That was like $500, $600, which isn't much for a laptop, but it'll do the job. So
Nice. Excellent. Thank you very much. And as always, thank you for the minutes. Excellent. All in favor of approving these? Good. Thank you. It is unanimous. Excellent. We move now to communications. We start with 5 minutes set aside for Select Board communications. If any members of the Select Board would like to address the public, they may do so now. All right.
I guess-
Oh,
Go ahead,
okay.
Carol.
Sorry.
Catherine,
I
were
was
you
ready.
just
Yes,
about to?
absolutely.
It's okay. I
Go
can
ahead. Go ahead.
I was just going to remind everybody that we have a slew of meetings coming up. So in March, we're meeting on the 13th, 15th, 22nd, and 27th. 2 Mondays and 2 Wednesdays. So, and then it's later until May when there are again 4.
Can you say those dates just one more time?
Yeah.
for
Sure.
Fun.
Monday, the 13th and 27th are our meetings. And then the 15th is at the school. And the 22nd is the public hearing with the budget committee. So 13, 15, 22, 27.
Okay, so I should probably say now then that I know I will miss the last 3 of those because before I ran for the select board, I signed up to do this 54-kilometer ski race in Norway called the Birkebeiner. And I'm going to be in Norway then, so I know I will miss those 3 meetings, unfortunately.
Well, that's amazing. And
Or
I think that's a-
one of the other. No, but
Yeah,
I
that's all right.
know already.
Well, Angelica can mark him excused right now.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
I'm
yeah.
going to be gone from the
yeah.
17th to the 27th.
Gotcha.
Perfect.
Thank you very much for that, Steve. Thank you
Still
very much,
miles
Catherine.
plus.
Great, work, everyone. Excellent. Karen, if you'd like to go ahead.
Yeah, so there was a comprehensive plan meeting on Saturday. I think there was at least 20 something in
At least, yeah.
attendance in addition to the staff that have been working on the plan. I believe you
Yeah,
zoomed.
zoomed in.
I
yeah,
know you were there.
absolutely.
And a very wide cross section of people with opinions and a lot of sharing and a lot of ideas. And so thank everybody for coming out. One question I have, and it's just to kind of comprehend the whole role of the select board in the budget. I know a few meetings ago, we had voted on any expense over, I guess it used to be $10,000, had to come before the select board. And then we voted to increase that to 13,000, which sounded like that would make some sense with the cost of everything going up. So it puzzles me that things are in the budget that we didn't discuss, we didn't vote on. And I don't understand when things come to us and when they just go to like the budget. Someone can shed some light on that because
So things that are in the budget we're looking at now.
well, let me just say, last year was my first year looking at budget anything, and I was just like soaking it all in. But there were things like the library parking lot that we didn't vote on. There were things like town hall windows we didn't vote on. There are things at the transfer station. Open space went from $10,000 to $50,000. So how does it get around us that these things are on the budget, but I don't comprehend. I went to every meeting, read everything in the agendas. I remember a couple of them maybe coming up in like conversations or questions, but I'm not sure how things, and then today or this year with the $600,000 fire truck. And I think Mank went to the budget committee, but not to us, to explain is there an urgency? And somebody messaged me today, oh, I hear it's a spring or something, like something that might actually be faulty on the older one. Stuff like that. Wouldn't that kind of big expense come to us to be discussed, but instead of just going around us to the budget committee?
I can give you some information on that.
Mm.
So we don't vote on anything on the budget except as private citizens, because that's what the citizenry of the voting public, that's their choice. Our job is to spend what they have authorized to be spent. So and I think the amounts aren't right. I think were we at 7,500 and we raised it to 10,000?
It was something like that. Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't- it doesn't-
and so that's
yeah,
just it.
yeah.
That's a separate policy about whether we put something out to bid or not. It's not whether we're actually approving the expense, because that expense was already approved by the voters. So when we have town meeting, that's when the budget numbers get approved. So nothing comes to us to be approved. It comes to us to actually approve writing the check and mailing it. So we're making sure that it's being done according to what the voters said to do. So we have a purchasing policy that tells us if something is at a certain threshold of spending, and I think it's 7,500.
12.5. So
12.5,
Carol-
so you were right.
13.
if this is the
It was
price we're right, you'd
increased.
be
So
over.
12.5.
It went from 10 to like
Okay,
about
to
13.
12.5.
Okay.
So in
Excuse me.
some cases, there just aren't 3 vendors to get something from. And so what we said is that because of the increase of everything in society, that we would raise that limit to 12,500 to have to get 3 bids. So we could take just 1 bid if we wanted to, or not even a bid, just have someone who gives us an estimate or a proposal. Is
So
that right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that's separate. I think you're asking more about the budget process, right? And how those things
Well,
come forward, or?
I mean, when you look at the way most of those things were voted on last year, it was in a capital improvements, $500,000, and it just said library, town hall, open space, of course, fire station, which would pass no problem, I'm pretty sure, and the transfer station and cemeteries, but we didn't vote on, does the library need a parking lot, which I know there's a big difference of opinion in there. And kind of going back to what I've said probably in every meeting since is we have a list of things we want to do. But right now, I think we have to do the things we have to do. And some of those wants need to kind of be pushed off because maybe now is not the time to borrow money, nor is it to be spending and raising taxes. So I guess I would like to see, instead of a 12-item capital improvement, okay, article that says, do you approve $15,000 to pave the library parking lot? To be honest, I think the library is the new community center. Yay, Melissa. It's the place where people gather.
Yeah.
Young and old and book readers and artists and hikers. And so yay. So there's more volume there, I think, than we've had. So that's a discussion maybe we should have instead of just a 12-item $500,000. And I don't understand.
And and I just want to clarify for my own sake, are you talking about the way the warrant is written?
Yes.
You're talking about on what we vote on, the combining of those things into one. Is that what we're talking
Where
about?
people don't know, that's what those items are.
Okay.
And like open
Okay.
space, I don't know how that qualifies for capital improvement at all. It's buying property to set aside. You're not building anything. You're not doing anything for kids or elderly or arts or music or education. It's just set aside. So that I don't think falls under that category whatsoever. But also there seems to be a big difference in town about should we be spending taxpayer dollars on open space. I guess if I could just say if there could be a little more detail in the big $500,000 capital improvements and if somebody like wanted 11 of them but didn't want what they're going to vote it down. I mean, those things are going to always pass if it includes the fire station and the cemeteries and the transfer station. And, it just seems like things that might warrant a discussion or a vote of the people. That's going to be an expense that might impact taxes and everything else should be a standalone.
So you're looking at more kind of a line item, like break out some of those larger things into individual lines instead of a aggregate.
Well, there are 2 public hearings where the public can come and express their opinions on Wednesday, March 22nd and Wednesday, May 31st. So that's a good time for
Yeah.
people to let us know how they feel about those things.
And I will say this too. I think we did it last year. And I know I've seen something online. I don't know if it was mailed to everyone, but do we send out an explanation of the warrant?
We do. We send that to every household.
So if somebody was
Yeah.
looking at it, if I get this in the mail and I'm like,
Or we try to. I can't vouch for the postal service. But we
right.
try to.
Okay. Okay. I thought so at least then there is that little bit of help. But I agree, yeah, it's absolutely.
And I guess it's process-wise, which I think is part of your question, Carol. Oftentimes, the budget committee does more of the fine-tune work. They're the ones that spend 30 hours over the course of the budget process dealing with the everything, top to bottom, soup to nuts, postage up to salaries and all of that stuff, and capital projects. The items that are more consequential policy-wise and financially, we have those joint workshops for capital. And so in that way, the board does get kind of a view of what's going on with those other items. We also, whenever we present budget information, typically we also include the detail. It was a couple meetings ago, we had the first budget draft and we had all the detail lines. that information is available and the board is welcome to discuss it. I know you've talked about, and the board's talked about a number of these things before. So that discussion is part of the process. But what happens essentially is typically they start with the budget committee by design, and then they get fed up to the select board, and then the budget committee does another iteration on the select board. And it's kind of a back and forth that way. It's a little bit of a sine wave with the public involvement always throughout that. And so once we get to the time where we're starting to pull the warrant together, the select board then goes through and votes on every article. And the articles are put together, which I understand your concern about that. But they're put together, and the select board voted on every single article, including the work that was done behind it. So there is a discussion, there is a vote, and it's really up to the board on how much discussion you have on those things and how you discuss it. So I'd say that's kind of the process to get it to the vote. One of the reasons why we have the more condensed version of a warrant than we maybe used to is because we don't have open floor town meeting anymore. People can't take the things that they want to vote on and put them together or separate them out. And we already have 40 articles. It takes an hour plus to fill out that form. And it might take a little bit longer, but maybe not. But a big consideration is, the printing, all of that, the filling of ballots. Having 3 or 4 page ballots can be cumbersome and tricky. So I think the format that we have kind of, I guess doesn't demand, but it performs best when there's a balance of things that go together and things that don't. And I can completely understand your perspective about wanting to pull some things out individually. The board has done that in the past. I guess the one thing I would say about open space is that I do see that from an accounting perspective and from a operational perspective, I guess, as a capital item, because our definition of capital is something that's more than $5,000 and has a life of more than 3 years. And real estate of any kind, or easements, because a lot of this is, I think, potentially for easements, fits that category. It's a more or less a perpetual thing. But I think that you're right. We should have more discussion about open space and how we're investing in it, all of that. So, yeah.
So then it would be reasonable then, right? It sounds like the board does decide kind of how to chunk things together, right? Or
Yeah.
clump things together. And so if there is a specific concern that a board member had that, well, it looks like this item is one that might be a good one to break out, we can have that discussion,
Absolutely.
right? But
Yeah.
I do understand what you're saying about the warrant. I have long complained ever since we got rid of town meetings, like, oh my God, I'm going in to vote. Got to set aside a half a day, So, and I think that, Carol, there is like I would see it as a balance, because some people just get, literally, I've just seen people just go, they go bam, 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 bam. Like they're clearly not giving it a great amount of thought, and so I
Well, or
think there's a
they've read it,
balance.
or they've already read everything at home. I mean, I'll tell you, I don't wait till I'm standing in front of that ballot. I've
Yeah,
done my
I do the same
homework.
thing. It still takes a while, but anyway, I think that it sounds like there is opportunity for the board to have that kind of discussion about the kind of the granularity of like what goes in a clump, right?
Yeah.
So if I can ask, I guess then, with the fire truck, is that, I thought we've had discussions where there's money put aside every year towards the purchase of a new fire truck.
So we do
Is
have
there
money
a
that
lump
gets.
sum somewhere?
Yeah, so in the budget right now, we have $75,000 out of the reserve. That is out of 125,000 roughly reserve that we think we'll have at the end of the budget year, so end of next year. We basically leave $50,000 in there because that is the contingency for the fire department, which has $5 million in assets sitting in that building. Something could go wrong. We want to have a little bit of a buffer there. So we have 75,000 going towards the purchase of the fire truck. And to your point about having things being voted on, ballot measures that involve bonding are always, and it has to be an individual. You can have a bond that includes multiple things, right? But that bond itself is always voted on separate from other things. So with the fire truck, there will be, if it's on there, which it is right now, there will be a bond question that people vote on, and then there will be a different item in the capital piece per the current model. If people vote down the bond, then there's probably not going to be a fire truck. Maybe not without a special town meeting or some kind of discussion about, well, what happened, why, maybe we need to find a different way to finance it, whatever that might be. But yeah, that does get a separate vote for the bond.
So, is there an urgency? 'Cause I've had good intentions going to budget meetings, and there's family health this month's been
Sure.
wild. Is there an urgency that we're not aware of?
Well, I mean, I'd say that there's an urgency that you I think are aware of, that the original equipment, as discussed, was proposed to be replaced in 2018. We've already pushed it off for 5 years. There's also a capacity question. As our department continues to maintain pretty stable enrollment, other departments around us are having sometimes fewer and fewer members. They might have only started with 12 and now they're down to 6, So the idea of being able to rely on them to bring in extra equipment and water isn't really there right now. So that's one factor. The other piece is, and I mean, certainly Lee can explain this better than I can, is that this is a 2-year wait time. So even if we order the truck now, we have to wait 2 years to get it. So that truck will be 7 years out of replacement. And that's just the schedule. We can always adjust the replacement schedule, but the cost of borrowing is likely going to, increase a little bit and then plateau. I'm not sure that next year, if we feel there is a valid need for the truck, the borrowing's probably going to cost the same, maybe a little bit less, maybe a little bit more. But one thing we're certain of is that the cost of that truck is going to go up again next year. So by borrowing now, we're saving taxpayer dollars, again, if we believe that's a necessary purchase. So the impetus is financial and operational as far as maintaining a fully functional department that really buffers against some of the unknowns that we're starting to see. So, and I think we're doing a good job getting into the budget discussion too.
So it
this
is
good.
a bond, going to be a bond. Okay.
About 75, 80%, something like
Percent
that.
of it.
75 out of 625, whatever that is.
75%.
Okay, but for budget purposes and its effect on the tax increase, is it
Yep.
going to 2023 if it is a bond that's passed? That's what I guess I
Only
Yeah,
don't.
no.
the-
All
only
we'd
the
be doing
interest.
is the 80,000.
So it'll be something
first
like
year.
$25,000 will
Okay.
actually be in the budget this year. And then next year, there would be about 1/10 of the total cost of the truck plus the interest
Yeah.
is what we pay each year. Because it
1/10
was
plus,
listed
okay.
as a
So
10-year.
what I'm looking at right now, because I did adjust the interest rate to 5% and the term to 10 years from 7 to try to balance out some of that concern about the cost. We're looking at next year about $18,000 for that interest payment for that first year. And that would be in the spring of 2024, which is the budget year 23-24. And then every year after that, we're looking at $70,000 for 9 years. And then we're looking at just a principal payment to round it off at the end of it, I think, and that would be like 50,000 or something like that. But
Carol, you good with that? Anybody else have any more select board communications?
It's good.
Right along here to our boards, committees, commissions, and departments. Special thanks to our friends from the Comprehensive Plan Committee, as well as the Age Friendly Committee that are included here in our packet. Then we continue to public communications. There is nobody here live with us at town office, but if there's someone online for the public who would like to address the select board, now would be your opportunity. And seeing none. We'll move right along to appointments, reappointments, and resignations. 5 minutes for item 23086, which is to consider the resignation of Kevin Kelleher from the Recreation Board.
I make a motion that we regret accepting the resignation of Kevin Kelleher from the Rec Board and wish him well in his new job.
Absolutely.
I regretfully second that also.
It's been regretfully moved and seconded. Is there any other regretful discussion?
Just want to say
Please.
he's been fantastic. He's been a pleasure to work with. He helped initiate some of the movies that have really helped bring the community together at the fairgrounds, at the beach here. So I really appreciate everything he's done for the rec board.
Thank you, Kevin, very much. All in favor of accepting this resignation with regrets? Thank you very much. It does pass. We move to old business, 10 minutes, which is good. It's sort of like a nice bridge and transition into our budget update. Item 23077 is our budget update. There's also a document online under the select board area here that you can find out more about the budget and draft budget update. Eric, do you want to give us the greatest hits of this?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I think I'm already over my 5 minutes.
I know, right? Yeah, that's all right. It's
That's
very
okay.
informative.
That's not much time, really. And I'm happy to talk
It's
more
great.
if people want me to. God bless you if you do.
Yeah.
But I did include from the February 9th meeting updates that happened on February 15th. And first was 25,000 for the first year of our revaluation process. I have confirmed with Dave Ledoux that we're moving ahead with that initiative. We're looking at a 4-year revaluation process we finally feel that we're at a point where real estate prices are going to stabilize. They're going to be wonky. We know there's going to be ups and downs. It's going to be weird. But the relative values are really what we're looking for. Those relative values of one house to the next. And we've seen a lot of change in the community. So it's been 20 plus years since our last revaluation. It's time. We had wanted to do this earlier, but with the pandemic, it wasn't certainly the right time, but we're getting there. So that's going to cost money, but we have a reserve that's over 110,000, I think, 120. So we actually have all the money set aside for this already, which is wonderful. I'm really glad we've been saving for it. So that's a big change. But again, no tax impact because the money for it is coming out of reserve. Additional 10,000 for earthwork to expand the brush area at the transfer station. That also has offsetting revenue coming from reserves. We are continually kind of getting crunched there. We don't have really enough room for the brush. Getting people to grind it is becoming harder and harder. So that little bit of extra capacity is going to help multiple areas. That was a recommendation from Karen and the maintenance staff. So I think that's a reasonable thing for us to pursue. Changing the source of age-friendly revenue from grants to using their fund balance. We haven't seen any, they've been focusing really on programming. And so I don't want to really rely on grants unless we know there's something being pursued. So we'll let that be for the time being. And I actually had made some more changes today that aren't on here because this was put up last week. The budget really is moving a fair amount. I actually talked to Joe Petrosky today. We had talked about having him come and speak. He is scheduled right now for March 13th for our select board meeting to talk about the county budget. We originally had 8%. Then I saw that the county had put 5% up on the website. Talking to Joe today, he said it's going to be 6.6. So we're actually kind of in the middle there, which is helpful for the town because that is going to reduce the overall impact to taxpayers than what we had originally budgeted at 8%. Not as nice as 5, but it's hard. Everybody's struggling. And that 6.6% is, as it stands currently, identical to what we're seeing for the rest of the overall budget, a 6.6% increase on taxpayer impact. But I have heard some questions about what that really looks like, what part of that's the school, what part of that's the town. And it can be a little bit hard to break it up because we do have every year the tax base gets bigger. We build new houses, people add kitchens, they add sunrooms. So that helps. But I did look back today and if we kept everything static, that's not municipal expenditure. If we kept our use of reserve funds, undesignated reserve the same, if we kept the county budget flat, if we kept the school budget flat and looked at our town property valuation as being flat, all of that, and compared that against what we have for municipal increases, it was something like 1.5%. So if you back out of that 6%, all of the changes that are not related to the town expenditures and services specifically, we're looking at about a 1.5% for the town side, which I will stand up and say I believe is entirely defensible given the economic conditions that we're in currently.
Absolutely.
But
And that includes the
yeah.
truck?
that includes the fire truck,
Okay.
Yeah.
1
But-
point, what'd you say?
Yeah.
1 point.
1.5.
about 1.5. And that's an about, and I'll keep it there for now because things are changing. I did look at, I backed out swim lessons, which was a sad thing for me to do. That's saving us some money because that was honestly, it costs more to put on than we expected for revenue, but sometimes you're okay with that if you keep a kid from, not being able to swim or teach a kid to swim. But there's changes happening that are related to feedback from the select board, feedback from the budget committee. But right now we're starting to stabilize a little bit. And I think that we're in a good spot.
Just to clarify, the 1.5 is the municipal increase.
And that's the impact on taxpayers, the
Right.
out-of-pocket increase.
Right,
Yeah.
but there will be a larger out-of-pocket increase because we also have to pay for the county and for the schools.
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
County
we can't
really
control.
wasn't that large. I mean, dollar amount was,
300 and something thousand. So it's not inconsequential.
No, but I appreciate that way of looking at it. That really helps to put it in perspective. So I appreciate that. Thank you.
Excellent.
And thank you for the additional update that you gave us. I think that's really helpful. And can that be out on the website as just a standalone item?
Yes, and that's part of the messenger. So it is on the
Perfect.
website. Yeah, but maybe not
Excellent.
directly. So now
It's
it's
now
on
on
the
Facebook.
select board
It's on the
page
Facebook page.
and in the messenger, if people want to take a look at
Great.
that. Yep,
That's great.
sure.
Very well then, shall we move forward? We go to item 23083. Consider the approval of commercial hauler permits for the transfer station. I think this is a leftover one, yes? that we-
Yes, right?
We had two extra
Two of
come
them,
in. We still have one hauler who retired and then kind of came out of retirement. He has like maybe 50 accounts, maybe 20 accounts, not a lot.
Okay.
And we're still working on getting him in a place where he's going to get this taken care of. But again, we try to be flexible. We know they're providing a valuable service. I'm not going to cut somebody off cold. But
That's not-
these are the two new that we have. And like I said, we have one just outstanding. Archie's, they actually bring a lot of their waste directly to the landfill in Norridgewock because they have a compactor truck that could fill up about a third of our compactor here.
Oh, no.
And there was constant damage from the compactor trucks from different companies backing up and backing into the metal infrastructure. And it was just not working. We're not sized to handle compactor trucks. So we just said, save the trip, go right to Norridgewock. They'll bill you at our rate and we handle it that way. So Archie's is one that we see mostly for recycling because they have to, and they do collect recycling separately. And then the other was
Galoosh.
Galoosh.
Yeah.
And they've been good to work with. They just got behind and I have no issues with their proposal either and recommend that the board approve both of these.
Sounds good.
I'll make a motion to approve the commercial hauler annual permit applications for Archie's Incorporated and Galoosh Waste as presented.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve these commercial haulers for Galoosh and Archie's. Is there any other discussion? All in favor? Thank you very much. We now move on to new business. This is item 23087, which is to consider a draft Readfield Beach ordinance. We have 10 minutes set aside for this. You can find that ordinance on page 19 of your packet is where it begins. If you had a chance to look over this, Eric, anything you want to add about this before we kind of talk about it?
Sure, really quickly. The reason for this is that we used to have a beach that was privately owned by a private nonprofit group or private citizens group. It was given to the town. What was managed as a membership-only beach up until 2 years ago, maybe 3 years ago. And as a membership-only beach, it was easy to manage. There wasn't much need for regulation of this kind or oversight of this kind. But when we opened it up to everybody, we started to see a few more conflicts, more use, certainly. And we didn't have the same ability to say, well, you're gonna lose your permit because basically, we don't have, what am I trying to say here? Things have gotten more complicated as this has been opened up to the public.
Yeah.
I guess that's probably the best way to put it.
Capacity.
And so, like any important public resource, we need to have a process for administering, managing, and enforcement. We've had issues where the beach attendants really haven't had the ability to stop disruptive, destructive activity. There have been conflicts, arguments. And this puts some things in writing. Most of this, 95% of this is already in place. The beach rules are very much the same as they were before. There are a few notable exceptions, but for the most part, this is the way things are. We've also seen a lot more use of our parking facilities, whether it's people wanting to use it. Once we started plowing the beach parking area, which we never did before in the wintertime, people are down there using it for lots of other activities, and snowmobiles are there, and that's cool. But we want to make sure that we don't have snowmobiles doing donuts around the picnic shelters and things like that. So we're getting more use, we're expanding the use. And I guess the other piece that I wanted to mention on this is that this gives us the ability to expand with less conflict. This ordinance really is administrative. A lot of the details are left out of it, so that the select board, the budget, or the recreation board, and the conservation commission, who I did plug in here as having an important role, can all talk about how best to manage that beach. Really, the ordinance is there to set some of the big parameters, and then the detailed day-to-day stuff is really set aside for other discussion. So the approach was to try to keep it simple and to then include all of the other work in the attachments and rules that are established by those other groups, including the select board.
It's great to see all of the various pieces, the renting the canoe and kayak, the beach reservation, the day passes and things like that. Thank you for including that. Sean?
Yeah, other than adding sharks to Maranacook, Eric, I appreciate that.
Sean found the Easter egg.
Little fun tidbit.
That must have come from the York part.
Yeah.
I saw that and I was like, I'm gonna leave that in there.
Yeah, I love it. I'm so
That's too
glad you
good.
did. I'm so glad you did.
But we will take it out.
Yeah.
We will take it out, yes.
Okay.
Just remember that for your amendment. Okay. But what I wanted to talk about was the two pieces that I wanted to bring up that, I wanted to clarify was, I really think looking at our reservation block and really taking that smaller grouping out of there, parties of 1 to 10. Well, that could be my family and Kevin Kelleher's family, and there's 10, and we all have passes because we live in Readfield. So I think we want to limit families from congregating together. We don't want to limit that sort of situation coming up. So I think if we start our bookings at maybe 20 to 50, 50 to 100 or something, and really look at our fee schedule based on those numbers, I think based on the usage of the beach would make a lot more sense. Another thing I struggle with is when we say things like "at any time" or "forever thou shalt." There's a piece in there about no camping or tenting at any time. And whereas I understand why we're not going to promote camping at the beach, I just don't want things like at any time to dissuade, the Boy Scouts for having a camp out hunger night and for a fundraiser for the pantry or something like that. So that's all. I just want to make sure that we, in that last line, I think we have something that we can revoke or change at any time. I think maybe something to that effect about flexibility to that per whoever that shall be.
Maybe the select board.
It is the select.
And that's my soapbox.
Is there a certain number that says never, like,
It's the one about tenting. Is the
So it
only,
must be on the beach rules.
Beach rules, yeah.
For the temping, yeah. No, and I
And I
understand
get it.
completely where you're coming from on that.
and
Yeah.
I get it too, because we don't want someone squatting at the beach.
oh, number 22?
Yeah.
Can we say without prior approval or arrangements or?
Well, and that's the kind of the question I had is, because we don't want people thinking that they can reserve camping spots at the
Right.
beach.
Right.
So that's why it's like, yeah, you gotta be careful what you say, but I do like the idea of maybe without permission of the select board. That might give the impression that
That would be
it's a
fine.
special thing.
Right.
It's a
You
really
You say-
special.
You just say without prior approval, that makes it sound like, oh, you just call the town
You get a
office
pass.
and they'll ask you,
Yeah.
and they'll let you tent there.
Or
you
do
know-
we do select board or town manager? Just,
We could, well,
We-
yeah, I don't
some
want
of
people
this may
calling me
not-
about renting it either.
No,
Or camping
because-
there either.
Then they understand you have to get on an agenda.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it's a process and it's a special thing, which could be, like you were saying, that would be awesome.
it's
Yeah,
not like I
because
want
It's a
to
beautiful
tonight.
spot. I'd like to tent down there, but yeah.
Yeah.
I have some.
Go for it.
Okay, Eric,
Yeah.
I'm
Yes.
going to give you my copy so we don't have to write them all down. Or we can
Okay.
give it to Angelica. But on the first, I've been scolded
You can give it to
before for too
Angelica.
much detail. So on non-recreational use, I think that needs to go onto the rules page. It's on the first page, number 2, under definitions. Because those are part of the rules.
I thought that was under rules
Nope, it's not.
or under definitions.
It's under definitions, but it's not in the rules. And so what we're telling people is, if we're going
Ah.
to post the rules,
Yep.
and if the rules don't say that you can't
Yes.
do these things
I
that
see,
are
yeah.
non-recreational, then I think we're setting up the beach attendants and thereby also the town manager to have a lot of flack.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
So if we're going to have that as a definition, it should be part of the rules, or don't
Okay.
have it as a
I
definition.
think that's great. I'll add it to the rules.
If you could look at 4E,
We,
the second sentence, it says beach town beach event permits.
okay.
I think it just means, I think we don't need the first beach. Would that be right?
Yeah.
Town beach event permits, if approved, shall be issued by the town manager.
That's exactly right.
Yes.
Okay. I didn't know if there was like a special something there. And then on 5A, it says that the hours of operations will be set under section 2A of this ordinance, but there isn't a 2A.
There's no 2A. Maybe I meant 3. Let's see, 2. There is no 2A. I think, I added the definition section after I'd written that. So it probably refers to
It's supposed to be 3A.
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 Yes,
Yeah.
3A.
Yeah.
Good
See
Okay.
that?
catch. 3A.
Ding dong.
3A, okay.
Red
And
pen.
then,
Some red pen work.
let's see. If water testing, I'm not clear on why we're doing water testing July 1 to September 1 if we're open from June 15th to September 15th.
That has to do with water quality. We don't typically see issues that early in the season. We never see issues that early in the season with geese. It's the goose poop.
Okay,
And so we could back it up, but it's quite a bit of effort to do the testing, get it into the lab. It's an
Okay.
expense.
just
So
asking.
we could say, I guess we could say, I think it does say at a minimum, or does it? If it doesn't, we should change that. That
Says
way,
it shall be conducted weekly. That's all
okay.
in those dates. And that's fine. I just needed to
Was there
understand
another,
why.
I could have sworn there's another sentence about more.
Oh, it says
at-
additional may be conducted at the discretion of beach staff.
That's right.
So
So
there-
that's what I was
is
looking
there
for,
a-
was to say, here's the minimum based on the peak issue.
Or you might test
Yeah.
twice in 1 week.
Well,
if-
yeah,
which
exactly.
Which we have done.
If there is
Right.
if you have a high test,
So-
you are supposed to do an immediate test again.
So if the
Okay.
beach show up early and you're worried about it,
Yep.
you can, it's
Okay.
already there.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
And it says that test results shall be available for inspection by beach users at their request. If we're going to get these results, can't we just put them up on the website?
We could, it's just an extra step administratively. I think posting at the beach is probably okay. We've got a bulletin board down there.
Okay, so let's post them at the beach. Let's not just make them at, somebody has to come and ask.
Yeah,
I mean, if we've got them and we've paid for them, let's put them so someone can see them.
So if there is a
Yeah.
problem, like a bad test, it's posted?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah,
Prominently?
yeah. Yep,
So I'm
absolutely.
just going to say
Yep.
at the beach.
I
Or-
wonder, can that be like one of those blasts that people get, like a,
If there was a high test, we would be
We're
definitely
closing
doing,
the
but
beach.
we would be
Okay.
likely
Yeah.
closing the beach and
Right.
and doing a blast and saying, thanks,
Okay.
but no
Then
thanks.
it'll be on the website.
Yeah, yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
It's been a while since we had a bad.
We had a good year last year.
Mm.
The staff were diligent, even with some of the weird temperatures that we
Yep.
had.
Okay, and
Yeah.
then on the permits, we have the permit application and it says town clerk initials and payment. And then that there's really no place for the payment information on the town beach reservations. But you go to the kayak rack rental and launch permit and there's this awesome box at the bottom that says payment type, cash, check, credit card.
Mm.
You know, they get the 3% fee. Couldn't we just put that at the bottom of each of those?
Yeah, I think we could do that.
I mean, there's no reason people can't pay with a credit card if they're willing to pay the fee, right? For any of
Yeah.
these things.
Yep.
Sam's.
Yeah, okay, add
And
payment
I've got that
box.
in here.
Okay,
Okay. And then it says the full amount should be paid. And I know this is a Sean thing, but it should read the full amount must be paid at the time of the reservation.
I'm good with that, Catherine.
yes, and
Okay.
that's on the
All right.
reservation.
And now my big one.
I like people paying their bills.
Yes, that's right. All right.
On money, it's a must. Excuse me. So I'm not clear on parking, and this is in 5C.
Mm.
The way I'm reading it, it sounds like you could park overnight in the lower lot, June through September, because it says it shall be limited to vehicles displaying valid beach passes June 15th and September 15th. And I don't think we want overnight parking. And then
Yeah.
it says the upper parking is limited for beach passes 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. in those same months, which would therefore imply that I could park on the upper lot from 5 p.m. to 5 a.m. with or without a pass.
Yeah, so that was left open. I wasn't sure how to handle that.
And I think we need to discuss that because
Yeah.
I just
Yeah,
going along with the camping and the
Mm.
pitching of tents, I
Mhm.
don't think we want this to be an overnight parking lot where people come and bring their motor home and use it like Walmart.
yeah,
know.
that's fair.
So I think we need to revise 5C. And then I'll go back to the discussion we had when the folks from the weather vane were here.
Mhm.
I think we need to accommodate them in some way. And
Well,
I
I
don't
think
think
that-
that really is, but
I think that's where it says both parking lots shall be open for general parking, no beach pass required outside of these dates and times.
Yeah, that's exactly it. So the idea being that if someone is there until 11 o'clock at night at the upper lot or the lower lot, depending on the season, that's available. But the weather vane is only a part of it. We do also, I mean, not that people are going to go hiking at 10 at night, but we have all the trail network there. The idea is that people can get to the school, they can get to the parking, the trail network, and they can get to the weather vane if they want to. But I think that one way to address this might be to say, no overnight parking or no parking midnight to 5 a.m.
Yeah.
And that would,
Now, it
Give-
prevent people from doing overnight. but
Doing
not on
overnight.
the weather vane.
but wouldn't
Yep.
overly
Makes sense.
impact. So
I think
that's a
good thought.
possibility.
Yeah. I like it. Just clarify it. Just make
Yeah.
it, make it
So
crystal
I'll
clear.
say other dates and times, and I'll add a piece there about
No
no
overnights.
overnight, midnight to 5
And then
a.m.
I know that we were talking about this with like the code officer and so on, but the upper parking lot is of no use to anyone in the winter months. And so if we're trying to accommodate any other use during the winter, we need to allow the lower lot to be utilized.
so you're saying behind the weather vane that it's of no use? Say that again?
There's the upper lot, which is grass. As you go down on the beach entrance, it's on the right. It's a
Like
level
where the
plateau.
Heritage Days?
It's where we had the
Yes.
parking for Heritage Days
Yeah.
this year, and it's also where the band played
I
2
see,
years ago.
I see, I see.
And then the lower lot is where everybody parks usually.
Because they don't
And
like-
so I think we need to look at wording this so that that lower lot can be used in the winter time.
I think that's how it's worded currently, because it says that basically with valid beach passes between June 15th and September 15th. So September 15th to June 15th, basically that period. falls under that outside of these other,
Right, because
Time.
both
These
parking
dates
lots
and
shall
times.
be open for general parking
outside
these
of those
days and
times.
So that kind of covers it. right?
Except
I mean,
midnight to 5 a.m.
Except in.
Right, and then we'll do
right,
the
without
overnight.
exceptions.
Does that work for you?
Yes.
I like that. I
And
buy that.
I did talk to
I like that.
Jeff, not Jeff.
John.
John.
Yeah.
I'll forever make that, I will forever make
He
that
will
mistake.
forever hear that.
Cotton
So it's fine, yeah.
But about this, and I said, you know,
Pass that to
this is
Angela.
where I think we should start, and if we need to adjust, we can, but
Absolutely.
he seemed to be happy with that
No, I
approach
think
because
that's
it gives them a little bit of flexibility where there was a lot of ambiguity before.
Yeah.
Um,
Good. Excellent.
Supporting business.
I love that. And I know that he is interested in maybe improving some of his property so that it would be an easier transfer from that lower parking lot.
Yeah, and I do hope that giving, kind of leaving that out of any discussion at this point, or out of the ordinance, leaves it to be discussed perhaps under the other
Of course.
statutory references so that the
Yeah.
board can say, we're going to do some other things with this parking lot. Doesn't have to be part of this ordinance because it might change.
Yeah.
We're going to do it as a separate agreement based on traffic and parking flow, which you have the ability to regulate. So.
So it seems like we have some good changes to leave this. We're not voting on this right now.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I think
Yeah,
this is
it's
it's
fantastic.
wonderful to have it all in one place, to have some clarity about who does what
Crystal
the
clear.
roles are, all that stuff. So,
And I didn't
yeah.
mean to not say this. Thank you for doing a great job with it so we could dissect it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, it's my job, right?
Karen, you want one last-
Catherine, and thank you for your attention to detail just boggles my mind
Oh, it's
sometimes.
fantastic.
Like the whole section 2A thing, I glossed right over that sucker.
Yeah.
You know,
Oh, yeah.
and like, you're
You
like,
sort of
well,
cheat. You're like,
there is
okay.
no 2A. Do you mean something else? Like,
But like I
great.
tell you, the reason that change came about was because Catherine had asked for definition
I like
on the
that.
last page.
aha.
And
So
I
it was actually
changed
your
it, so-
fault, Captain. That's what Eric's just trying to say. I think.
That's right. Carol, go ahead.
Two questions. One's kind of along the same vein as Sean is the day guest pass. For $10 for one guest, can we make that $10 for two? 20 seems a little steep for two guests for a couple of hours. And two guests seems like that would be common, like a couple or something. Does that
So
sound reasonable?
10 for 2 and then
And then
20 for 3
or
plus.
enough is,
Yeah, I think that makes sense.
I like that.
Yeah, that sounds
Yeah.
good.
Because we do want to encourage people to use this
Yeah,
and bring their
absolutely.
friends. Yeah.
and on that vein, this is a personal question as a resident. I'll take off my select board hat. So the Airbnb, we did not have this even come up last year.
Hmm.
But if we had a guest that wanted to go swimming,
Mhm.
I don't know how to do that.
They would either go to the beach and see the attendant or go to the town office, get a day pass for $10 for the two of them.
Yeah.
And they go down to the beach and go swimming.
We would
Yeah.
want to pick that up for
What's-
them because it'd be like, we want you to have access to our lakes, which would be one of our, because there's other rentals in the area that I
Yeah.
believe have lake access. So one question I
Hmm.
had, would we be able to, would it make sense to pay a non-resident permit $100 a year?
Season
That's
pass.
iron fence and we did not have it come up this year,
I
but
don't know about that.
I know.
Yeah, I think that the best approach would be to, because it's usually tied to the license plate and trying to track all of these different
Right.
people coming and going.
true.
We could maybe talk about a season pass for all that, but really, I think that the best approach would be, at least initially, to just, once you get their guest information, say, let us know your license plate number and we'll get you a guest pass for your stay here.
Okay.
That
the
would be,
guest pass
that would be
form,
the
yeah.
simple approach.
But you don't want to
probably.
get one if they're not going to go.
Right, but it's,
Yeah.
sometimes it comes up, you know,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a 90-degree humid and they
Yeah.
want to go for a dip and then go to the weather vane, it may not come with a lot of warning where we can say.
Sure, yeah.
But the
um,
beach attendant would be there or else you can just go,
Or you could
correct?
probably just go, cover my ears and.
Or can
and
we
not
just say-
that, but
Well, I mean, if
Um,
it's
An
after the
IOU.
hours of the beach attendant,
Yeah,
Or like an IOU for Carol or whatever, you know where to find me.
yeah, we could try to figure something out like
Okay,
that, but I mean,
thank you.
that is interesting, because a lot of the Airbnbs are actually on the lake.
They
so
are.
but you're the special
landlocked.
exception.
That's right.
I don't know, Cal, Doug loves his projects. You could just rent an excavator for him and dig a big hole in your side yard,
Oh.
and then they gotta go
This
swimming.
spring, we do have a little
There you
pond
go.
in the yard, yeah.
Excellent. So we now move on to our next item, 23088. I believe our last item of the night is to consider petition requests for the town meeting warrant. This is when citizens in Readfield gather signatures for items to go onto the warrant. In most cases, they are requests for funding, which we will find in our select board packet. So I just want to talk about the first one on page 32, which is for the Readfield, the Maranacook Food Pantry for $1,000. Just to keep in mind, this is merely asking for this to be put on the warrant. It does not guarantee that people, you don't have to vote for it if you don't agree with it, but it is simply to put it onto the ballot. Are there any questions or anything else I'm missing about that one, Eric?
Just say that this is one that has come forward. It is a new request, and it is validly formatted and worded.
Okay.
And all of these requests go on as a separate warrant
Yeah.
item.
Good,
They
good.
do, and we'll actually
Heard
talk
the discussion, yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that a little bit more with the next one,
Yes.
because it splits out from a previously consolidated article. But this one,
This is on page 33. This is for the voters of Readfield to support a request to fund $2,000 toward courtesy boat inspection program of Maranacook Lake.
yes, and so this one also properly worded, formatted, proper number of signatures. The challenge here is that this second one, they were previously combined with Torsi Pond Association. And so by them deciding they're going to go it alone and ask for a request without coordinating with the other agency, there's a question about whether or not that other agency would also need to go do a petition. And what that means for the budget process, and whether, whether or not those things should be separated out, or the existing Torsi Pond Association should just be left on as it was last year, because they didn't request an increase. I will say that the finance officer, Teresa Shaw, has some concerns about that approach. I think
The
from
approach of letting Torsi stay, you mean?
without
as
having to
is?
get a petition, but I have a little bit of concern because they're not asking for an increase,
They're
Yeah.
not changing anything.
and
They didn't change anything.
they didn't do anything. Their partner just said, well, we don't want to do this with you anymore. We want a $2,000 increase. Or not a $2,000 increase, excuse me. It's some
2,000.
small portion increase up to 2,000. And so that's kind of a policy discussion. It is a policy the select board has that anybody asking for an increase or wanting to be on the warrant for something new has to go through that petition process.
Yeah, gotcha.
I'm happy with what you said, at least for this year. If we want to change and ask them to do it for next year where they have fair warning, fair notice of the change, but do we know the separate amount that went to Torsi versus went to Maranacook?
I can find that. If you give
Well,
me a
I mean,
couple
we don't need
minutes,
to know
but
it now.
yeah.
The town knows it.
Yeah,
amount.
it wasn't, I mean, it wasn't a big, one of them was like 1,200, one of them was like 1,600. It was something in that range. They weren't huge amounts in any event, so.
Excellent.
I mean, they didn't ask for an increase and they're not new, so I think
I don't
It's
see,
okay
I
to let
don't
them
think it's
stay.
fair to say to them, you got to do that now. That seems kind of silly.
Right. And
Are
if
you
we,
talking about the?
Torsi, yeah,
Torsi?
the Torsi, yeah. And if we have an issue with it, then we tell them now, for next year, you need to get a new petition signed.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Because yeah, I think also you can't, I mean, don't skimp on your boat inspections, right? I mean, if you can help it, it's a preventable thing. It seems like a good.
Yeah, well,
idea.
minimum wage went up 8.7% this
Yep.
year. So that means all those boat inspectors are getting paid the $12.87 now.
Yeah.
And which is a big hit for a lot of those small agencies. So,
So
yeah,
we have, so those are the two that are valid and properly formatted. And then I
Yes.
believe we have two that are fizzling. Yes, is that what
yes.
it is? Okay.
So the next one is Safe
this-
Space Meeting House.
Yep, Safe Space Meeting House. The addendum, which was included here, was from the legal counsel of the town, which says this still does not comport with the requirement that the petition have language which is an actual ordinance. So it seems like this one is still not properly formatted. Yes?
That's correct.
Okay. And then it also seems like the one from the Friends of Cobbessy Watershed was also not able to come together.
That one was aspirational, but they weren't able to get the signatures. They still have time, but they had a change in their, I'm not sure if it's their executive director or their key staff person that was managing this process.
Okay.
I had actually tried to email her back and ask about this and let them know they still had some time, but the email came back, I'm no longer working with the organization. So
Gotcha. Well,
So that's why
every time.
they're not here at all.
they're not here
Because
at
they
all.
didn't
Yeah.
submit anything. Okay,
Yeah, that's
gotcha.
right. But that's just a point of reference that they, it had probably been discussed during the budget process, but it's not materializing. So
Excellent. So would we approve the two and then just move on, or do we have to reject the other two?
I think that would be good to be thorough.
Okay, yeah, no worries.
And have a vote on all those.
Okay.
Individual votes for each one.
You could probably group the ones that you, or have a single motion that says we're going to approve these two and reject these two.
Either way, I don't care. I will entertain all motions.
Lots of ways to do it.
Or can we do up and down on each one?
Sure, if you want, whatever you like.
Would rather.
I'll make a motion to, I think I can do this for meeting all our needs. I'll make a motion to approve the petition for funding request as submitted for the Marana Cook Food Pantry and for the courtesy boat inspection program of Marana Cook Lake.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the petition requests for the boat inspections of Maranacook as well as the Maranacook Food Pantry. Is there any further discussion for these two items?
I'm just curious, how do they come up with the number needed?
Of money
It's
or
10%
signatures.
of the last gubernatorial election voter turnout.
Oh, the
Do
number
you
of
mean the
signatures.
signatures or the
Number of
dollars?
signatures.
Oh, okay, I didn't know if you're.
Yeah, I asked
The amount
that,
of money
yeah.
they were asking for, the amount of money. Got it.
And they do all have to be Readfield voters. Oftentimes petitions come in and they have, 10, 20, 30% of the signatures are not valid. And we have to kind of just keep saying, well, come back when you get all of the valid signatures.
And that
Because
could be Readfield or Kent's Hill, right?
or Readfield,
That's
town
always-
of Readfield, yeah.
Town of
Okay.
Readfield.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. They might
Very
think
well.
they're their
Any
own
other-
town, but,
Yeah. All in favor of these petitions? Thank you very much. Now then, do we want to do individually or do
Yep.
we want to go ahead?
I'll
Okay.
make a motion to deny the request of the petition from the Safe Space Meeting House on advice of legal counsel, stating that the petition does not have language of an actual ordinance.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to deny the petition of the Safe Space Meeting House based on response from legal counsel. Is there any further discussion?
I didn't see where you're saying,
It is up at the top. Are you at the website, the
I'm on
Sub-
page
select board?
34.
If you go
Oh.
up to the very top where the agenda is. Oh,
it's right here.
oops, sorry. No, not there.
Oh, I was looking at the actual thing where it
Yep.
said it was revised, but not revised adequately.
Yeah.
Way up at the top. Versus 34. Let me go up there.
So we have a
Um,
motion in a
Yeah,
second.
motion is second. We're doing discussion. Yeah, it was a separate forward. It was had the two.
Gotcha.
There were
gotcha.
two selected. So the motion is to deny this. All in favor? Excellent. Thank you very much. And let's hit our last one. Oh, wait.
I-
So do we need to vote on this? Not even,
Signatures.
not submitted.
Yeah, no, yeah, you don't have to. That one's,
No,
that
okay,
one's
that
good.
makes-
That's just an FYI.
My
I
man,
mean, we
Steve.
talked about it, so the budget committee will be informed
Yeah.
that it didn't end up coming to fruition.
Yeah.
Wait, I swear somebody I talked to this weekend said there were 200 signatures down.
On
For
which,
what? The Cobbessy Watershed District?
No, which one are we talking about right now?
The Cobbessy
Cobbessy-
Watershed
oh,
District.
go ahead. Okay. go
No,
ahead.
no, we don't have to vote on it since it hasn't been.
Because
They
submitted.
haven't, they didn't
They
get,
came
they
to
didn't
the
get their act
bud-
together to
Okay.
submit signatures.
Okay, okay. No, I was going to the next one. I thought we already did Cobussy.
No, we are all set. We have just finished up our business for the evening.
So what about Bobitar's Millstream?
We just voted
That's
on that.
it's
That's
Safe
the
Space Meeting
Safe
Houses.
Space Meeting
Leah
House.
Hayes was the one that submitted that.
Wait a minute.
We just discussed that and we
Oh.
all voted in the
Oh,
affirmative.
gosh, I was thinking Union Meeting House. Why did I think Union Meeting House? So what was still wrong? So the original petition is still wrong?
According to the town attorney, yes.
I thought he submitted it to make sure it was right.
He didn't.
Oh,
The town attorney doesn't review private language.
Yeah, I think, yes. What I think the issue is that the language of the petition does not constitute the language of an ordinance. And the town council of Readfield is under no obligation.
They're not gonna
say,
write it
You
for
should write this. Yeah.
What did happen, and we had discussed this before, is
Yeah.
that we had a
Yeah.
language that was submitted that was really challenging. The town attorney did write a 2-page letter trying to advise about why what was presented the first time wasn't sufficient. And just coming back and saying, well, I fixed everything, now it's valid, doesn't do the trick. You have to actually meet the statutory language. And our attorney has said that that didn't happen.
do we know in what way? I mean, this is very delicate, as you know.
Well, it is, but I guess we don't necessarily know. The town attorney, again, wrote a 2-page or a 3-page letter the last time trying to guide this. The town attorney cannot draft an ordinance, and town staff. We've been through this before with some of the same individuals trying to get town staff to write their ordinances for them so they could say, well, town staff wrote it, that means it's valid, that means they support it. And that's not the case. The town staff nor the town attorney can or will draft or even really comment on whether or not language is appropriate or not, other than to say, after it's submitted, whether that's the case or not. So there's been a few go-arounds on this already.
So because it's the town attorney, it's not any particular person's attorney. So if I wanted to submit a petition, I need to get my own attorney to talk with me and help me write it up so that it meets ordinance specific state mandated language. Am I correct?
And this ain't it.
Yeah, that's right. And there were the number of valid signatures. There were like something like 250 signatures collected, but about a third of those were invalid because they were from non-residents. So they met the threshold, which is fine and good. But the total number of votes or the total number of signatures collected is different than the number of valid
Right.
signatures from voters, which again, that threshold was met. That's not the issue here.
Okay, I just saw the 4 valid signatures and like just a really tiny
think- I
little.
think
that
you
was
know,
like-
that doesn't
I think it was
look-
just the last
That's just the
page.
last page.
That's just,
Because
that's just
Okay.
the.
they're
I
not
was
showing
like,
all the
that's-
pages of all
that's
these
not
signatures.
good.
Right.
So can the town lawyer spell out what was not I mean,
No.
Probably not.
No, because that's giving legal advice to a particular resident at the town expense.
Well, we've been through this before. This happened 3 years
I
ago
know.
and Bob sued us and we're probably headed there again. So
okay.
we can't control him.
We are done with our regular meeting. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Is that how we're gonna do that?
I think so, right? Because it's a new,
We have
should
to
we
enter
move,
it.
do we just need to move into?
I think
Yeah.
we can just move.
I'll make a
into
motion to
executive
move
session.
into executive session.
I'll second
Pursuant
that.
to, you have to have the whole.
Oh,
thing.
boy, don't mess around here. Come on.
Sorry, that is me.
No.
Do you have it on the doohickey? Okay,
So
do it.
I'll make a motion that the select board enter executive session to discuss the town manager annual review pursuant to 1 MRSA section 50405 subsection 6A and invite the town manager to attend.
It has been moved to go into executive session. I just want to point out that we're still Zooming. And so this, should we stop the Zoom for this?
I would say Yes. so.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, and the intention is we will come out of executive session and make no new business, correct?
That is correct.
And we will probably move downstairs to have the executive session
Yeah,
so
we
that Bill
can do
can
that,
back
yeah.
up his
Yeah.
Yeah,
stuff.
and Angelica can go home.
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. So we are, it's been moved.
Seconded.
It's been moved and second. All in favor of entering executive session? And thank you very much.